A few years ago, I was getting a number of calls just about, what is going there. And then as people found out it was going to be, 30 odd stories, like, wait, what? How can that happen down at the Rotary?
It's an unusual sight in a city as short as Halifax. At 111 meters, this is our tallest building. Still under construction, but heralding a new era of height for the city.
The idea now that we're adding 10, and now for the last couple of years, 20,000 people a year moving to Halifax, we need the density and we need the height, and I think people recognize that.
7177 Quinpool Road is 250,000 square feet, and the developers say it's 33 stories if you count to the very top level of mechanical equipment. It's 32 stories if you go up to the top livable floor. Construction began quietly a few years ago. The project didn't need public consultation or even approval by council. That's because it met old land use requirements that date back to the late 1970s, and they didn't limit height here. The developers, Joseph and George Ramia, say when it's all done, there will be 92 apartments with parking and amenities at the bottom.
So here's how it stacks up next to Halifax's other tall buildings. Purdy's Wharf 2 is 87.8 meters. The former Fenwick Tower is 99 meters from street level and 106 if you include underground parking. Richmond Yards is a bit over 103 meters, and our tallest building near the Rotary, 111 meters.
He would say, the tallest building east of Montreal, designed by J. Philip Demerick, or Demerick and Byrne, depending on what mood he was in. He was so proud of that, he loved it.
Sid Demerick's dad helped design the Fenwick Tower. It might be a humble structure, but it held the title of Halifax's tallest building for about 50 years. It was built to be a luxury condo, but that never panned out. And even though it's been redone, over the years it's been ridiculed by some as an eyesore.
I think people don't appreciate the beauty of it.
Neil Lovett with Turner, Drake and Partners says public opinion of tall buildings is slowly changing.
If you go and really look at the conversations on the ground in most, at least North American cities and much larger cities with much taller buildings than Halifax, these same discussions are happening everywhere, and in fact are much more contentious, I would say, and much more heated and frankly much more ridiculous. I'm not surprised that it's taken Halifax a certain amount of time. It's taken everywhere a certain amount of time.
Joseph and George Ramia with Rank Incorporated told me in an email that they traveled to other North American cities to get inspiration. They say they settled on a slim tower design to best capture the views of the Northwest Arm. They weren't available to do an interview with me.
But I did talk with a structural engineer who works on tall buildings, and he told me in Halifax, wind is king. When it comes to building this tall, you need to account for things like wind tunnels on the street level and vibrations on the top floor. That's why tall buildings have what are called shear walls for extra support. These vertical beams take the force of the wind and they push it down into the foundation. You can also put anchor points right into the bedrock. The municipality also has some specific rules when it comes to building this tall.
So we have things like street wall height, so it has to be at least 2 or 3 stories. And what that does is it sets back any tower portions. Also, we want to keep those towers relatively skinny, not as skinny as this one, but relatively skinny, so that they don't block as much sun and shadow areas, especially around, say, pedestrian-oriented main streets.
Under Halifax's new rules, buildings as tall as 40 stories are now permitted in other areas of the city, such as Roby Street and near the McDonald Bridge in Dartmouth, where projects are already underway. Cleary says these neighborhoods are right for height, given their proximity to services and transit routes. Still, our skyline is dwarfed when you compare it to other major cities. New York City's One World Trade Center is 541 meters. In Dubai, it has the world's tallest building at a whopping 828 meters. But Lovett and Cleary agree a building's height isn't that big of a deal.
If you really think about how you experience a tall building, there's not really a lot of difference between, 8 stories and 80 stories. What's much more important, I think, is the design at ground level, how these buildings contribute to the streetscape, the public realm, as we say in planning.
The development near the Rotary is expected to be completed and ready for people to move in early next year. But with other high-rises already on Halifax's horizon, it likely won't hang on to the record for long.